Hey friends, Hope here. So I have been seeing a lot of things on Instagram lately in the adoption community about disrupted adoptions and failed, quote unquote, failed adoptions. And I just wanted to tackle it from a birth mother's view, and it's obviously specifically my view. So I want to take you all back in my journey to when I first decided I was going to do adoption. Actually, let's take it even a step back. So let's take it back to the moment I found out I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant in a clinic in Alexandria, Minnesota, and it was very shocking. It was a very traumatic experience. I found out when I was further along as well. The first time I heard about adoption during my pregnancy journey was about 15 minutes after I found out I was pregnant in the clinic. So I was 21 at the time. I was a junior in college. I came from a good family. I was really sick at the time, but there was nothing really that made me out that I couldn't be a good parent or a responsible parent, other than the fact that I wasn't ready to be a mom. I was 21. I was in college. So when I'm in the clinic, this traumatic clinic that I would never in a million years walk into ever again. So 15 minutes after I found out I was pregnant, I was told by the doctor when I'm asking, what are my options? I'm a pro-choice woman. That's my belief. I'm pro-choice 100%. And so I asked, what are my options? What are my options here? What can I do? Like, what's on the table? I never specifically even used the word abortion. I just said, what are my options? And within those 15 minutes, it was presented to me that adoption, I was halfway done. I was almost halfway done. Adoption is an option. There's actually a woman in the clinic who wants to adopt a child. So, mind you, I had found out I was pregnant 15 minutes previously. 15 minutes into my pregnancy, my knowing pregnancy, I was presented with the adoption route. Now, flash forward to a month later when I solidified the fact that I was going to place my son for adoption. I knew in that moment, there was a situation that happened. I thought I was going to keep him. Something happened. I decided adoption was it. So I was on that track. Never once did somebody discuss with me, not an agency, not a parent. Actually, I take that back. I did have one of my friends and one of my siblings brought up parenting. And I think my dad did a little bit, but at that point we had stopped talking really. So never did the agencies that I had originally worked with. When you fill out your information online and you're an expectant mother, they send you books within like 24 hours. So they send you emails, they send you online profile books, they send you pamphlets, all these things. So never in there was there any question about what is preventing you from parenting, or what is holding you back from parenting, or what support would you need to parent. Never. It was always, okay, birth mother. I don't remember ever being called an expectant mother either during this entire process. Like, it was birth mother. That's what I was called. So it took me a couple years after, when I started to get to know the adoption community, that I was an expectant mother, not a birth mother. My child was still mine. So during that whole process, never was it brought up to me that this is an opportunity. You could parent. These are the resources that we have in order for you to parent. It was always, okay, you're a birth mother, you're going to make an adoption plan, you're going to place your child, a family's going to go home with a baby, and you're going to be able to go live your 21-year-old life and finish college and do all these things. That's how it was shaped to me, that this is what adoption is. Like, another parent is, this is an exact line that I was actually told by somebody involved in my son's adoption. I wouldn't have to change the diapers. I wouldn't have to do the day-to-day. I could just love from afar and come in and out for visits and things like that. That's how it was shaped to me. And it is what it is. I mean, there's a lack of education on all fronts. But when you look at the adoption disruption, or quote unquote failed adoptions, I think about something that I've heard multiple times, and that somebody had posted today too, that somebody else had said, that a woman has to choose adoption twice. Now, big tough girl, Ashley, she said this. She has said this. A woman has to choose adoption twice. So when I chose to go with an adoption plan, I chose to meet a hopeful adoptive family. I chose a hopeful adoptive mother. I did all those things. I chose adoption. Once your child comes out of your body, you have to choose adoption again. And I never thought about it deeply about having to choose it multiple times until I saw that today. It was like, you're right. You do have to choose adoption multiple times. And going back to like the disruption and the failed adoption, I'm a people pleaser. I am. If I tell somebody yes, or even if I commit to like buy something from someone and then I don't do it, I feel guilty and I'll think about it for 5 years. So when I chose adoption, I never felt like I had the opportunity to not choose adoption. It felt like that was what was going to happen. I couldn't change my mind because I didn't want to hurt anybody. And this is just what I choose. I made up my mind. That's it. So taking myself out of the equation and thinking about other birth mothers, expectant mothers. See, look at language matters, right? I think about expectant mothers. Like if you're not ever talked to during the adoption process about your options, like you could parent this child with this support. There are these programs, there's this, right? Walk a expectant mother through the support that she can get if she chooses to raise her child. If she does not want to parent her child, that's okay. That is fine, but explore the options. What I'm thinking is that first adoption choice is not easy, but it's easier than the choice made after the child is born. Having to sign documents after the child is born and choose adoption again is really, really hard. Harder than the first choice to look at families and make an adoption plan. Like that choice is, peanuts compared to the elephant of a choice in the documents that you sign after birth. So when I think about one of the problems with this disruption adoptions or failed adoptions, I think about that second choice a mother has to make. Would you want your expectant mother that you've paired with to go into that elephant-sized decision not having all the options laid out? When I think about my situation, I think about what if I had been told all of these different options? What if I knew going into that I could parent with this, and this? Maybe I would have chose to parent. And I didn't have a disrupted adoption, but for many people who do, if you know that your birth mother has been educated on or the expectant mother, see, I'm doing it again, calling myself out. But if you know that your expectant mother has been educated on all of her options and all of the possibilities of support for her, wouldn't you feel so much more secure going into that final decision? Going into the birth, going into that final signed piece of paper. So if I'm making sense here, if you're catching my drift, what I'm saying is when you look at a disrupted adoption, a failed adoption, I don't necessarily think it's only because a mother chose to parent. It is, but it's also because the agencies and the professionals did not do their due diligence before that elephant-sized decision was made to make sure that this expectant mother actually wanted an adoption plan. Like maybe she was just scared because she didn't think she could parent. She didn't think she'd be able to feed a child, clothe a child, get the necessities. She didn't think she'd be able to get housing for a child. But if she knew that there were programs out there that could support that, maybe she wouldn't have even made an adoption plan. And then maybe the family, this hopeful adoptive parent, this hopeful adoptive family wouldn't have to go through the tragedy of thinking that they're taking a child home and then they're not. That is a huge distinction to make here. If you are not sure if a birth mother has been given all the options, you should go to your agency today, send an email, make a call, send a text and say, hey, has the expectant mother I've been paired with been presented with all of the options and paths to parenting her child? Not your child, her child. Has she presented with all the options? Because I truly think that making that a mandatory thing with any agency you're working with, any professionals you're working with, any lawyers you're working with, making sure that these expectant moms have gone through all these different options is important. First off, birth mothers and expectant mothers deserve that. I deserved to know what my options were. I deserve to know that there were programs and services that could have helped me. I deserve for somebody to have told me that. I deserve that as a human, as a freaking pregnant woman in crisis. I deserve to know that there were options out there for me. I deserve the ability to be able to change my mind and not fear that I would be hurting people. I deserve that. Birth mothers deserve, expectant mothers deserve to know their options before, after, in between, through all of it. Do you want less disrupted adoptions? Do you want less failed adoptions? Educate the birth mothers throughout the entire process. The expectant mothers, educate them on what their options are, the sources, the resources that are available if they choose to parent before they match with a family. Make that a requirement for your agency. Before we are going to have this expectant mother look at profile books, we are going to educate her on the programs that are available in her area, her state, in general with our agency to make sure that this woman at this point is serious about adoption plan. Now, that is not to say that that adoption might not still be disrupted and the expectant mother chooses to parent. If she chooses to parent, that's wonderful. Like, that is her God-given right to choose to parent her child. But I think that is truly a way to cut down on disrupted adoptions. Don't let them even get to the adoption plan phase. Provide the education, provide the options to expectant mothers up front so that the ones who are on the fence get the help that they need to parent their child, so you do not bring in a whole other family to this whole thing, right? Like, the weight of somebody else's emotions and feelings and somebody else's building their family is not to fall on the expectant mother and the birth mother following. That is not our responsibility to be worried about that. We should be worried about what is best for us and our child. So what I'm trying to say is educate on what is available for birth mothers in your local area, in your state, with your agencies. Educate them on what's available, the resources available for them to be able to parent should they choose to do that. Educate, educate, educate. If you're an adoptive parent, a hopeful adoptive parent, require that your agency you're working with or the lawyers or whoever you're working with is doing this. Have they presented the options to the expectant mother? Should she choose to parent, these are the resources available to her. Because that could get her to choose to parent long before you're in a hospital waiting room waiting for this baby to come out. And this woman was never really sure, just didn't think that she could do it because she didn't have the resources. And then you leave the hospital with a disrupted adoption and she leaves with her child. Like, let's try to cut that out as much as we can, because it's not fair to the expectant mother. It's not fair to the adoptive family. We have to speak up. Adoptive parents hold the power because they write the checks. They have to speak up to the agencies, and agencies and professionals have to put this in practice and put this into motion. Rant over.